here's a gentleman who's been on the program before. His name is David Tarver. He's a native of Flint, but he received his degrees back in the 70s and started a little telecom company. And then he sold it a few years back for some ungodly sum of money, just this huge amount of money. Really successful guy from the inner city that now has taken his time to teach other people about entrepreneurship and what it takes to be successful and to think outside the box and realize that you can indeed make a difference and find a way to make a business out of it for people that necessarily have never thought of themselves as entrepreneurs. Joining me right now to talk about it is David Tarver. He's going to be hosting a symposium taking place at the Detroit Public Library tomorrow. It is open to the public, but there are going to be 200 DPS students there hearing about entrepreneurship. David Tarver, welcome to the Craig Fahle Show. It's a pleasure.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Well, I should let folks know you're going to be speaking tomorrow at the Detroit Public Library to a number of DPS students, talking to them about really not just about the challenge that you've got going, but also to get them to think a little bit differently about what their possibilities are and what they could potentially do. And this is sort of a shift for you. You've gone from doing this yourself and starting companies to trying to teach others and give them the courage to really go after this. Why was that important for you?
Well, that's true. I really, as I mentioned when I was here a couple of years ago, the whole exercise with the book was about summarizing what had happened in the career. I looked at my entrepreneurship experience as kind of an experiment. I wanted to really see what could be done, how much could be done, by a kid from Flint. And I found out. And so I wanted to document that. And now I want to let people know about it. I want to teach other people how to engage in that process and be successful. So since writing the book, have begun teaching a couple of entrepreneurship courses over at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And I still find that there's a need to extend this kind of entrepreneurship knowledge and the discipline of entrepreneurship to places like Detroit and Flint, obviously, which have a lot of economic need.
Well, I mean, I love this idea of coming up with business models, business ideas that might actually aid in solving some of the persistent problems that we're talking about in communities like Detroit and where you're from, Flint, of course. And I mean, that's sort of a change in mindset, because for often it seems you start these businesses so you can get out of these neighborhoods.
That's true. But there are still a lot of entrepreneurs in these neighborhoods who want to do things and who are actually making things better. There are a lot of business models that have been applied here and in other places that are improving things. But I think we could be more systematic about how we approach these things, and we could share more information. We can prepare the entrepreneurs in these areas better to be able to assess the situation and be able to analyze the problems that exist and come up with business opportunities and business models that address them.
Well, you're gearing up something called the Urban Entrepreneurship Challenge. That's going to happen a little bit later this year. How's that going to work?
What I'm trying to do is to put more attention on the issue of addressing the problems that we find in urban areas with for-profit solutions. We have a lot of government solutions. We have a lot of not-for-profit organizations that provide solutions, and that's all fine. I want to see the for-profit community step up to the plate and do more, because I think when we create these kinds of for-profit solutions, we increase the economic vitality of our cities, and we create solutions that are sustainable and scalable to other places. So,
well, you mentioned a moment ago that there are some things that you could point to that are doing this right now. Give me an example. Give us an example of something you think that's a for-profit solution that maybe we've been thinking of government as providing the solution for in the past.
Yes, well, that's a good question. I run into these kinds of situations all the time. I was having coffee a few weeks ago, and the fellow who was sitting next to me was a retired doctor, he told me. And I said, well, what are you doing these days? He said, well, I'm providing at-home medical care, house call services to people in Detroit. I said, oh, that's interesting. Tell me about the business. So as it turns out, he's involved in a business that provides medical care to people who wouldn't otherwise get out of the city or maybe wouldn't get to a hospital. He provides the medical service. He has a driver that takes him to the homes. He's got a guide that takes him through the neighborhoods and makes sure that he's in the right place and everything is safe. And so it's providing a valuable service, this business. And providing services that people might not otherwise get. Then on the other end of the scale, you have people like these, West Coast entrepreneurs who come up with solutions. One of them being Uber, which is the car service, right? You have a situation where you might not have taxi service or enough taxi service in an area. You can call an independent kind of entrepreneur or contractor who comes and picks you up, takes you where you need to go for a reasonable price. And that's an example of a recent solution that is really geared toward urban areas.
Well, David Tarver, thank you very much for being with us on this Wednesday. I wish I had more time, or Tuesday, I should say. I wish I had more time to talk to you today about this. Again, the event is taking place at the Detroit Public Library tomorrow. There's a little competition involved, trying to get kids to think outside the box, come up with solutions to urban problems, and find ways to monetize those solutions to create opportunities for budding entrepreneurs. My guest has been David Tarver, author of Proving Ground, a memoir. We appreciate him being with us here on The Craig Fahle Show on 101.9 WDET Detroit. We'll be back.